Right guys, got a little tale to tell you about the vehicles I've bought and sold this year, some of which have been bargains and some of which have cost me a lot of money. So we started off with this silver van here, which I bought blind on eBay for £330. I knew there was a couple of issues with it. Firstly, it had a problem with the ECU or the fuel system, whereby once you got to 55 miles an hour, it went into limp mode and basically cut you back to 35 or 40 miles an hour. So that was okay, I knew about that. Second was the massive ding on the passenger side, which they conveniently didn't show in the eBay pictures or mention at any point. And the other problem with it was the clutch. The clutch was really high biting point. Now it may have adjusted out, but after just having replaced the clutch on the other van, the Transit, I didn't really feel like spending a huge amount of money on having a clutch done again. So there were other problems with it as well. It absolutely stank of tar on the inside. It was a complete shit piece, but it was a 55 plate van that ran and drove and had an MOT for £350. And the reason it went so cheap is because he put literally no description at all on his eBay listing. Basically it just said it's a van and it goes into limp mode. So I thought I'd take a chance on it, buy it completely blind and see what happened. Now, for a start, I sent it into limp mode by accident on the M1, which didn't please my wife, who wasn't overexcited about having to drive to Sheffield with me in the first place to fetch it. And then I got it back home. She had a quick look around it and just said, no, get it on eBay straight away. And I said, well, I can sort of clean the inside out a bit, see if we can make it look a little bit better. Nope, just get it on eBay. So I took the time and wrote a proper eBay description detailing exactly what was wrong with it and exactly what I thought of it, and the fact that we bought it to cart the kids around in, and it's not really fit for that, because this is supposed to be a minibus, even though the seats weren't bolted in at the back and half the seat belts were missing. So anyway, put it on eBay, completely honest, long description so that people understood exactly what they were buying, and I sold it a week later for £500, and someone drove all the way up from Essex to come and fetch it. So it just goes to show, put a decent description on. Here's the second vehicle I'm going to show you. Now this has just sold on eBay yesterday as of filming this. I bought it at the end of June, or perhaps the first week of July, for £1,400 it was, with 11 months MOT on it. It's a 3.2 diesel Shogun, and it's the long wheelbase 7-seat version, which is brilliant. I thought, we can cart most of the family around in this in one go. Fantastic. It's automatic, my first ever automatic. It does have a dent on the rear quarter side, as you see here, rear near side quarter. It has a hole in the tailgate, which I was going to fill up. It's a 2002 model, and these are quite sought after, the 3.2 diesels, because they are capable of towing, I think, 3.2 ton trailers. So it's got a large trailer weight on it. People use them for hauling plant machinery around and trailers full of hay bales and all sorts of things. This one, it drove pretty well actually. If you look, the spare tyre is brand new. Incidentally, I filmed this video whilst also clicking for pictures for the eBay auction. So this is basically what they saw on eBay as well, just stills from this video. Now, you may notice that the engine cover is in the back, but we'll come back to that in a minute. This is the interior of it. Quite smart really. It's got selectable four-wheel drive and diff lock and things like that. The seats pop out the back there. We're going in the front from this angle. There's a slight tear in the seat. Now, I thought I got myself a bargain here for 1,300 quid. Most money I've ever spent on a car. I clambered underneath it to make sure it was alright. I spent ages checking it over, test driving it, all sorts of things. It was a big thing for me because I knew if anything goes wrong with it, it'll cost more than a normal car. It's my first ever 4x4. Quick look at the dash. I won't turn the ignition on, and I'll tell you why in a minute, so you're not going to see the mileage, but it's I think 180,000 miles, so that's nothing for a big engine like this that just purrs along. And yeah, I was really pleased with it for the week that it worked. And that's the problem. I went into town shopping, and it just cut out on the bypass. We nearly got rear-ended by a lorry. You see, it's got plenty of storage and nice things there as well. I'll just show you around the cab while I'm talking. Yeah, we nearly got rear-ended by a lorry because it just stopped dead, and it would turn over but not start again, unfortunately. So anyway, another lorry driver who was a good lad, he just bought his own tractor unit to start up his own business, and he just happened to be driving past us. He opened a brand new ratchet strap and used it to tow us to a lay-by, because bear in mind I had my wife and my baby, who was at the time about 8 months old, in the car. And they were terrified, basically. We were just stranded in the middle of the bypass. So yeah, got towed there. I then had to ring for a recovery truck, which cost £100 or £120 I think it was, to tow me 8 miles to the garage where it's parked here. Then the mechanics, because they're good lads, looked over it for me and didn't charge me, which was very nice of them, so I've got them a case of Guinness for that, to say thank you. Someone had messed about with the wiring, so the OBD breeder wouldn't work with it, unfortunately. And actually, when we turned the ignition on, the engine management light didn't come on, so that wasn't good. So perhaps that's why they faffed about with it. I don't know. The auto electrician sorted that section out anyway now. But yeah, so we obviously it was a fuel delivery thing. We thought we'd start with the easy things and the cheap things. So new fuel filter, new primer pump. None of it worked, unfortunately, so then I had to get the auto electrician out. Now, it took me best part of 2 months to get an auto electrician to come and see it, so it's been sat in this yard ever since, in the way. And yeah, it took him a while to find out what was wrong with it, but basically it's the injector pump, which is under here. You see where all these cables are unplugged here? Just beyond that, on the side of the engine block, sorry about the shaky cam, there is the injector pump, which unfortunately is drawing 30 amps and it's only on a 20 amp fuse. So there's a problem with a solenoid or something inside the injector pump. A new injector pump is over £2,000. A recon injector pump is somewhere around £1,300. A second-hand one that you don't know what you're getting is about £800, unfortunately. There's the fuse it was blowing. So yeah, it just wasn't a viable repair. These mechanics can't do it. You need a diesel specialist to do it. What a nightmare. So basically I've pissed over £1,000 down the drain, but it was sold for £560 on eBay, so hopefully I'll be able to recoup some of the money. I'm sick of looking at this thing. Let's go to the star of the show. Cheers. 2002 Renault Clio diesel 1.5. I've had it roughly a year now. I bought it off someone at my work because the van was having its clutch done at the time and I needed something to get to work in, so someone at work offered me their car. There's quite an awesome story behind it, which I'll tell you in a second, but it's so far been completely reliable. It is now due a service, so I'm going to have to spend some money on it soon. And it also has a squeaky noise, which I think is a CV joint. But other than that, it's been completely amazing and reliable. Past an MOT, it just needed one shock absorber and new brake pads as well, I think. But it's quite awesome. It's been one of the best cars I've ever bought, value-wise and reliability-wise. So I'm really pleased with it. Let's go inside and I'll tell you some more. So, as you can see, it is a little bit of a mess in here. I use this car every day. I do the school run in it in the afternoons because the wife's at the other school with the rest, picking up the rest of the kids, so we need 2 vehicles for that. Now, I'll go through everything and then tell you the story of the car and how much it cost me. But just a quick look round. It's got an aftermarket stereo, which in a way is a bit of a shame because it did have a remote. I don't know, you might be able to get an adapter for the steering wheel remote, but I don't know if I can be bothered really, to be fair. This stereo also has Bluetooth compatibility, but you have to buy a special Bluetooth adapter thing, and it costs more than it would have done to buy a new Parrot. So I've just got the Parrot from the van in here, fitted that the other week. Not the best place, it's a little bit in the way, but it works fine there, and for the amount I use it, it doesn't really matter. It's got aircon, does need regassing, unfortunately. Inside is mostly alright. I've made it quite mucky in the last year or so. Now, here's an interesting feature. The seats flip up like that, as in a normal car, but then I haven't got the room to do it because the seat in front is in the way. You don't have to pull the seat forward, but they actually unclip. Oh, there we are. Unclip and pull right out, meaning that these back seats can go flat, and basically there's quite a lot of room in there. With this seat fully folded forwards, as far as it goes, bearing in mind that it's supposed to tilt to let the passenger in the back, and that mechanism on the passenger side is broken. So just with adjusting it as far forward as it goes, you can fit a Yamaha QT50 in the back of here, which is not bad for a small car. I think it's about 11 foot long, this car, so not too bad at all, really. It's got the 1.5 diesel engine in it. It has done... Tell us about the oil first. Oh, you have to start the engine. Right, okay, I'll turn the blowers down so you can hear. Open the windows. It's had time to glow up, hasn't it? There we are, first time every time. I think it's done roughly 125,000 miles. I'll check that when it stops telling us about the oil. Normally it says oil okay, so I think I need to top it up a bit. 126,924. It's done all that on the same cam belt. So it really does need a major service, unfortunately. But it still runs and drives fine. Awesome tilt sunroof. Love it. There's a couple of dings and stuff on the outside. Now, the exciting, awesome story about this is, it was bought new by an old man. He kept it for, I think, 8 years, something like that. When he replaced it, he gave it to his daughter. She ran it around for a bit. Then she gave it to her sister, who ran it around for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And she is the cleaner from my work, or one of the cleaners from my work. And anyway, one day she turned up to work in an Audi, and the other cleaner said to her, "What happened to your old car?" And she says, "Oh, we bought this, so I'm just going to scrap it." And he says, "What's wrong with it?" And she says, "Nothing, it's got 11 months MOT, it runs and drives fine, it's just we've got a new one now." "Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 100 quid for it." "Yeah, alright then, yeah." So she brought it into work the next day, they exchanged £100, and he had this car. Now, he ran it round for a year, and then my van developed clutch problems, and he asked if I wanted it. "Yeah, sure. How much MOT has it got?" "Oh, I can't remember how much it had now. I think it had 9 months MOT. "Okay. How much do you want for it?" "You can have it for what I paid for, 100 quid. Flipping brilliant. So that's the first part. I bought it for 100 quid. Now, the tax on every other diesel car I've had has been £220 a year. They're normally 2 litre. I have had a couple of larger ones than that, but generally all the diesels I've had have been 2 litre, and I did have a 1.8 once as well, which was a Peugeot 205. So anyway, went to do the tax online for this, 30 quid a month. Okay, that's fine, 30 quid a month, I can manage that. And then it gave me the pay monthly option, and I was like, is this a glitch or what? So I clicked it and it came down to like £2 something a month. So it's actually £30 for the year to tax this car. So that was a lovely surprise. Then came the insurance. Just to give you an idea of insurance on me, insurance for the van was about £900. Insurance for the Jaguar when I had it was £750, I think. And insurance for that Ford Focus I had before was £500, I think. Insurance on this, for me and my wife, with no claims, because we were using the no claims bonus on the van, came to just over £200, and that also includes the fact that she had a crash last year. So she made a claim in the last, I think it was about 12 months ago, and it's still less than 250 quid, which was absolutely awesome. And the final fantastic thing about it is, depending which figures you read, it does between 55 and 75 miles per gallon. And I mean, it's a 1.5 engine. It's normally aspirated, there's no turbo, but it's only a little car. It's a tiny go-kart with a torquey 1.5 litre engine in it. It accelerates all right. and it does amazing miles per gallon. The things I'd change about it, I would probably have got a 5-door version because it's a bit of a bugger squeezing the kids in. I'll just show you a couple of things about it. So first of all, that's the space to get in, and I have to get 4 teenagers in this car with me sometimes when it's raining, and that's the middle seat. To give you an idea of how small that seat is, there's a lighter. So we've got to squeeze someone in between these two seat belts because it's got a ceiling mount seat belt that clips in both sides. So basically we need someone whose arse is about 2 lighters wide, which is not ideal. And that's about it really. It's been a really handy, awesome car. It's a little pocket rocket, costs pence to run. And the idea with buying the Shogun was I was going to keep this as well because there's no point not keeping it. It's worth more to me than it's worth to anyone else. So that was the plan. But now it's my main car, so even better. And eventually, assuming it's still going when the kids can drive, they can have it. So yeah, out of the 3, I would buy a Clio, definitely. So I hadn't really paid any attention to this car before I bought it, and he fetched it in the dark for me. So I just literally got in and drove expecting it to be a shed. There's a couple of tiny dings, like I said, but nothing really noticeable. There's no rust anywhere that I've found. And it's got plastic front wings, so even if you ding it on the wings, it'll pop straight out. Now for a £100 car, this is fairly well loaded. In fact, it's better loaded with features than some of the other cars I've had that were more expensive. Here's the luxurious tilt sunroof. It's also got sun visor mirrors, which, you know, they didn't have to include on a car for this price. It's always nice to have extra bits. It's got theatrical lighting that fades on and off and makes me feel all special and warm. It's got the adjustable map light next to it, which is a nice feature for if you don't want to flood the entire cab with light on an evening when you want to check something. Electric front windows, rear ones don't open. That switch there is for the airbags, switch them off, which I don't know why they put it in the door, they're normally in the sunroof. It's got electric mirrors and it drives like a charm. Unlike the other 2 cars, I can actually take you out for a drive in this one, so let's have a bit of a ride round. So just to recap on the 3 cars, the first one I showed you was the minibus, which I bought for £350, did nothing to it and sold it on for £500, so that's £150 profit. The second one was the Shogun, which unfortunately lasted 6 days before it terminally broke down. I eventually sold it for £450, not £560, because the original eBay seller didn't show up, or, well, he just stopped making contact basically the day before he was supposed to come and fetch it. So I had to run it back through eBay. So all in all, that was £1,400 plus 120 to have it towed to the garage, and then another 80 quid to have somebody look at it, and an auto electrician look at it and tell me it was terminally broken, and then 2 lots of eBay fees, which came to about 50 quid. So all in all, I lost £1,200 on that car, unfortunately. And bear in mind as well, that's the only one I actually checked over before I bought it. The other 2 I bought blind. So this vehicle, this fine upstanding vehicle here that's been driving me around for a year, £100, barely anything to run, brilliant. And I didn't check it over before I bought it. So the moral of the story is, I think, buy cheap, even if you can't check the car out first. As long as you know that you can sell it on for at least the same amount of money as scrap, then you can't really lose, even if it is a complete lemon like the Shogun was. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, the more money you spend on a car, the more money you can lose on the car. See you next time.